If I was in WWE right now, and TNA was selling out another pay-per-view, I wouldn't be like, hi TNA, can I come over too for a little?
Victory Road, the match is set. The prize is the TNA World Championship. One is a former champion, one is the current champion. Some tough words have been traded here, and also a goal for the champion involved as well. A lot to get into here. Nic Nemeth, of course, a lot of people know him as the show stealer and a man who's been certainly the franchise player for TNA for quite some time. And Moose joining me here. Gentlemen, you guys will collide for the TNA World Championship. Nemeth, you are the champion, and Moose, a former champion. You guys have been saying some pretty nasty things about each other, so I would hope we could keep the decorum here fairly fresh. But I do have to bring up a recent statement you said, Nick. This video catching some steam recently on TNA's YouTube page. You called him something I can't repeat, and that Moose is maybe making too many overtures to other companies. How do you feel about your opponent going into this match here at Victory Road?
Well, first and foremost, let's say what the truth is here, because I don't have to sugarcoat anything or pretend that he's bad at wrestling or was a bad champion. He dominated as champion. He did 2.5 years, I think, without getting beat. Like, that is absolutely dominating, and one day down the line, he'll be completely associated as TNA World Champ and a legend. However, even though I've never beaten Moose in a one-on-one match, I am currently the TNA champion. So I focus, I'm someone I was in one company for 19 years, and now I'm excited to be bouncing around, but representing TNA, whether I'm the champion or not, as an ambassador, I love it because I know this roster. I know how hard Moose has worked to be champion and stay champion, and a lot of it's, a little shading behind the scenes, but still, I appreciate the work and wanting to stay champion. But knowing him and knowing what he can do, it's really interesting to see someone like him on Twitter, like, talking like, I don't know, like a bad fan would, where it's just like, hi, Triple H, can I come over too? Like, come on, man. Like, I get that I was there already, so I know the deal, and I loved my time there. Well, love-hate relationship, whatever. But still, I loved it. I love being in the business. I love doing everything for it. But if I was in WWE right now, and TNA was selling out another pay-per-view, I wouldn't be like, hi, TNA, can I come over too for a little? Like, I don't know. I appreciate his loyalty to stay with TNA, but also you see tweets like that, and you go, what are you, like, 15 years old? And you're like, no, he's a real grown man who was the former world champion. So that part bothered me, and I'm assuming bothered some of the rest of the roster here, because even with Moose as champion, this roster is amazing. We all root for each other. We're all trying to steal the show. We're all trying to not stab each other in the back, but make TNA a bigger household name than it already is. And just when you see things like that, it's bothersome. I don't think it helps the company. I don't think it helps sell tickets. All it does is try to get Moose on a radar, and he doesn't have to try. He's already Moose. He's already been a multiple-time champion. He's already dominated people for the last 2-3 years here. I'm going to beat him on Friday, even though he beat me last time, because I feel like he's too focused on checking out other companies and what else is going on and seeing like, man, NXT seems kind of fun. It does seem kind of fun. But what also seems fun is being world champion and letting the entire world go, this is the place to be. This is why I want to be champion. This is why I would be doing this interview right now, even if I wasn't champion, because I believe in the infrastructure, the people behind the scenes, the roster, the team, everybody fighting to make this an amazing, amazing brand. It is, but we could always go higher, and that's what I focus on, so that's what bothered me a little bit more than normal.
Moose, you care to respond to that?
I think Nic Nemeth just gave a rant of contradiction, because if I really wanted or was begging to work for a Triple H pick me, I would have signed a contract in September when I was or last August when I was a free agent, or better yet, I would have signed a contract 2 years ago when I was a free agent, but I decided because of goals I had here to stay with TNA. So that's kind of contradicting to me. Doesn't make sense. I've had opportunities to go work there. I stayed. I think my post was just to shine light on some of the great champions that they have currently.
You're trying to shine a light on WWE so people notice and hear about them? That's what you're trying to do?
To show my greatness. I mean, the difference between Nic Nemeth and Moose is Name 5 great wrestlers Nic Nemeth has beat. I'm waiting. But if you look at the list of people I beat champions who work for WWE, like Drew McIntyre. He's a champion. Guess what? I beat him. Bobby Lashley, champion for WWE. Guess what? I beat him. Priest, champion for WWE. Guess what? I beat him. I could keep naming, you know what I'm saying? So that was the light I was trying to shed, but because Nick isn't as smart as he looks, sort of different way, saying, "Oh, you're asking, begging for a job." No, if I wanted a job there, I would have signed a contract there twice. That when I was offered, that's not the case. I mean, would I love to be a part of this? Whatever they call it, the fans call it. Sure, when that time comes, I'm sure it'll happen. But as of right now, my focus 100% is being a full-time TNA World Champion and beating Nic Nemeth on Friday night.
Wow. It's pretty some pretty tense words there, gentlemen. For both of you, obviously you both want this. Nick, you mentioned this. You have not pinned Moose, but certainly you had your target on him right away when you debuted. Moose, how do you feel about that? You have something over him. He clearly has something over you.
I like I said in past interviews, I have the blueprint and a successful game plan that has worked to beat Nic Nemeth, and that's one thing a lot of great wrestlers in our locker room doesn't have. I mean, he beat Josh Alexander in an hour-long great match. He beat Ali. Who else did he beat? I mean, I don't pay attention to all Nick's matches, but he's beat some great ones. I mean, Josh is really the only guy I need to mention because some people call him the standard bearer at TNA, and he beat him. But guess what? I beat Josh in 10 seconds. It took him an hour to beat Josh. So you see where the greatness lies, you know what I'm saying? A guy that I beat in 10 seconds, it took him an hour to pin him. So, I mean, I'm going to this match very confident. As great as Nick is, don't get me wrong, Nick is a very great wrestler. In fact, when Nick made his debut in TNA, I was hoping, praying that the guy that he signed, which he did, because I knew when I beat him, it's going to raise my greatness to another level, which I did. So thank you, Nick. But this time I get to do it for what means the most to me, which is that TNA World Champion around you, right in the corner of your bedroom. And in just a few days, I get to proudly say that I'm a full-time TNA World Champion, and only 2 guys in the history of TNA has won that title, many more than me, and that's, I believe, Sting and Kurt Angle. So
check out BrainBuster, the daily quiz that tests your WWE knowledge with winning streaks, stats, and more. It's time to see if you're up for the challenge.
Good company.
Nick, I know certainly you guys tend to disagree. I appreciate you guys trying to keep it classy here, but obviously you got a little fiery here after the cameras went off air. For lack of a better term, in emergence, and called in some pretty nasty names. You are very passionate about being a world champion in TNA. Some might say that this is a chip on your shoulder. You have things to prove, and you're still proving them as a world champion. How do you feel about that? That you still have to prove something as a world champion. Now you have to do it with a world-class athlete in here, a guy who has a lot of backgrounds beyond pro wrestling and himself and Moose.
Yeah, I mean, I've sang Moose's praises. Like, I even personally, if I hate his guts, that has nothing to do with him being an awesome athlete or a great dominating champion for years. He was. But the words I had, fiery, sure, but it wasn't the passionate in the moment, because I do feel like I have a second lease on life to where I'm trying to be associated with TNA and being an ambassador and a champion, someone who's telling the world even more so about TNA than they already are. And that's why, like, you could say Moose can say I contradicted myself, but I was just like, hey man, if you say your focus is on TNA and that is it and the world title, then why are we talking about other companies? Let's talk about them after the match. I focus so much on getting the word out about TNA. Not that they need it, but I've helped it at least 1% and gotten, just a little bit more of a buzz than we already had because of this great roster, because of how great everyone is, because of the cards that deliver, because of the people behind the scenes making sure everything fits and runs tightly. I live for this. I do have a chip on my shoulder because I do want to show everyone that I know for 19 years my win-loss record wasn't that great, but given the opportunity to be able to put some people down and be in their place, I can do this for 20 more years. I have been very fortunate to be able to check all boxes as a 10 out of 10 in every aspect of this business, if not an 11 in some. And to have that team playerness, no matter what my record was and where I was, brought to TNA, I feel like that is helping bring in just a few more people to make sure those shows are sold out. So I know as a fighting champion, someone who puts the title on the line, not whenever and not for no reason, but whenever it comes up and it makes sense and someone looks me in the eye and asks me for a fight, you got it. So in this case, Moose ran his mouth and I wanted to put it up on the line. But also I'm proving something to myself. I have not beat Moose. He pinned me. He kicked my ass last time. And now I have to find a way again to evolve and come back even better if I want to remain TNA World Champion.
Very interesting to watch Moose respond to you as you say that. Very intriguing setup here. Definitely join us here as well. TNA Victory Road is this Friday. It is going to be at the Boeing Center in San Antonio, Texas. Tickets available through TNAWrestling.com and etix.com. That is the Boeing Center, Friday, September 13th in San Antonio, Texas. Obviously, San Antonio, a city that is very familiar with someone who is running a group, a promotion you have some history with, Nick. WWE NXT, which has brought a lot of talent and kind of influxed the ranks and vice versa of NXT. NXT doing some big things here coming up with the CW. What do you guys both think of this collaboration between WWE, NXT, and TNA? Has it created some interesting opportunities for both of you to perform? What do you think the ceiling is with this, and how far do you think it can be taken by both these promotions? Very unique setup, very interesting thing, and I think the fans are definitely intrigued by the whole thing.
Moose, you should take this. You're much more focused on NXT than TNA.
It's funny. Don't let the guy that's focused on another company take that title around your waist. So what would that say about you? But to answer your question, I think it's great. I've been here. I mean, if you're talking about the veteran of TNA, I have a higher veteran status as my man Nic Nemeth has, because he's been here for 8 months, and I've been here for 9 years. So I've seen some of the partnerships that we've had with other companies throughout the years here. I honestly believe that this is the best one so far. Just how often that we exchange talents, and I mean, look at what they did with Joe Henry. I mean, I wouldn't put the 100% of his stardom on them, because Joe Henry had a big part to do with it too. He did his thing to get there, but they gave him a huge platform to show the world that Joe Henry is a superstar. And like, look at the great things they've done with Jordan and with Zach. So yeah, and I mean, I think is a great trade-off, and we give some of their younger guys who need the reps, we give them reps. Because with all the people that they have in their program over there, they don't get the chance to wrestle as often because they have so many. So yeah, send them down to TNA. We'll give them some reps and give them some ring time. And I think the partnership is great. And I believe this last taping or loop we had a couple of their guys that stood out in the X Division Ultimate X match. And yeah, so I think it's great, and I can't wait to see what more comes from it, because there's a lot of things you could do with it. I'm happy that we have this relationship with him, and I just can't wait to what 2025 brings with it.
Nick, you are a former NXT champion. I'd love to hear your take about this.
Well, yeah. So I mean, again, for me personally, the relationship, I love it. I love that on Tuesday nights and Thursday nights, you don't know who's going to show up. You genuinely do not. From either company, however it goes, that's what it means. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan, because it's not the craziest comeback, return, surprises, but when you have those moments when you don't know who's going to walk out that entrance gate, it makes it that much more exciting for a wrestling show that you're already excited for. So I love this partnership so far, and we've sent a few people over, they've sent a few to us, and I really think it's beneficial for both sides, clearly. And again, to Moose's point, Joe Henry getting more views than WrestleMania and The Rock, that is not from WWE. That is now partnering with WWE and making it even more of a bigger name. So the more he gets out there, the more mainstream he becomes, the more he's associated with TNA, and the more tickets we sell at TNA as Moose as champion or myself as champion and Joe Henry out there, and possibly Moose showing up on NXT. Like, what the hell? He could be throwing people through windows. So I love all that stuff, and I left on purpose. So I don't, and I was a former NXT champion, and it was a blast working with Breaker, and he hits hard as hell, and it was a blast working with him. But I don't have a desire to go show up on a show that I've already done a few years ago, a place that I asked to leave. But I really, really enjoy this partnership, because not just people showing up that you don't know. Like Moose said, you get some people that might not be getting a full-fledged, full TV time here. They can make their ways there, and vice versa. So opening the doors for everybody to go back and forth and find something that works in a business where it's really sink or swim no matter what you do week to week. That really helps out everything. And I guess as a fan, it is a great time to be a wrestling fan. There is wrestling on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, sometimes Saturday and Sunday. So what a great time to be a fan, no matter what you watch. If you watch some of it, all of it, or one show, this is the absolute best time and the best talent rosters ever in the world assembled, period, until next year.
It's a very good time to watch wrestling.
We're all fans of this, and I just remember when I was watching wrestling when I was younger, and I was watching the Attitude Era, and it was WCW on TNT and WWE on USA. Imagine if like somebody from WCW showed up on Monday Night Raw, I would lose my shit, you know what I'm saying? So fans now, and that's just me being a fan, so imagine the fans now seeing somebody from TNA showing up on NXT, or vice versa, somebody from NXT showing up on TNA television or TNA pay-per-view. They get to act like how I acted if that was to happen in my younger days. So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, the fans win. And that's what wrestling's about.
Absolutely, and there's a possibility of something like that happening coming up here at the Rosemont Horizon, the Allstate Arena, October 1st. WWE NXT will be on the CW. It'll make their big debut there, and I expect some total nonstop action involvement in some way. Just saying, I'm just smelling the blood in the water. That's all I'm saying. It's a very exciting time. Thank you guys so much for the time. Obviously, this Friday, streaming through TNA Plus. Get the details at TNAWrestling.com. Tickets available at TNAWrestling.com as well. In San Antonio at the Boeing Center, Victory Road, the big main event. The prize is the TNA World Championship. Nic Nemeth versus Moose. Gentlemen, thank you both for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You got it, man. The show's going to be great. The roster is stacked, but I'm telling you right now, we can joke around and talk our trash. When we get in that ring, we're going to beat the hell out of each other, because we know what that title means, and we know what that means for TNA growing for the future.